This is the Solid Signal podcast for the week of October 24th, 2022. And the subject for this week is in defense of cheap televisions. You know, we spend a lot of time as home theater enthusiasts talking about the best television and what we are going to get, which there's a lot of TVs out there that are good, and I have my personal preferences, and I also have ones that I tend to move away from. I was a Samsung guy for a long time until it began to look like it was impossible to get a Samsung television without a microphone built into it. And we know that Samsung has been sending information to servers even when the microphones are off. I didn't like that, and so I have changed brands. At any rate, you can talk about the best television for days, weeks, months if you want to, and everybody's going to have their own opinion. And really, most of us are not ever going to be able to buy the television that we really feel is the super best. You know, the 8K mini LED, whatever at the moment, that's the hottest. And I was just looking at great televisions over the weekend and realizing I'm not going to spend $5,000 for a TV again. I did that once and got caught in a, quick obsolescence kind of loop, and I didn't really like that. So there's great TVs, there's mid-price TVs, and then there's cheap TVs. And when you look at cheap TVs, you can find these under a lot of house brands like Best Buy's Insignia products, or you can find them in the lower levels of the TCL range, which TCL makes some really good TVs, but they also make some really inexpensive ones. You can find, Vizios, ones with names you've never even heard of, Hisense or Conca or something like that. And I got to tell you, there's a lot to like about cheap televisions. If you're looking at a TV that's 40-inch television for under $200 regular price, and then we come around to Black Friday, as we're going to come around to, and we'll find even cheaper TVs. That's a pretty good deal. And it's important to remember that 20 years ago, all of us were using tube televisions that were just nowhere near as good as even the cheapest flat panel today. And we were happy. We were loving it. You were telling people how great our Sony Vegas were, even though they were 200 pounds in standard definition and didn't look very good by any standard that you have today. Cheap televisions are cool, and cheap televisions are great because you can buy them when you need them, and then, if you drop them, oh well. They're great for a kid's room, they're great for outdoor parties. I'm not the sort of person who tends to believe in disposable technology because I'd rather buy something that's going to last for a long time. But surprisingly, TVs are still evolving. I would have thought that TVs would have settled down by now, and most people would probably think they already have. But it seems like every year there's something new that you're going to want to buy. And if you buy a cheap TV now, well, you can always donate it to a school or some other nonprofit organization. They're usually pretty happy to have it, especially, to put it in a lounge or make sure a family needs it. Who needs it will get it. And it's worth doing that. So go ahead and look at cheap TVs. Don't be afraid to do it. And look at those places that you wouldn't necessarily shop for TVs. If you're a Walmart person, then shop there. And if you're a Target person, shop there or wherever. Just look, because you can get some really awesome deals. You can also get dumb TVs at that price range. And by dumb, I mean, not smart. And there's some benefit to having these not smart TVs, not being nagged to connect them to the internet all the time, and knowing that they, you turn them on and they basically work, and that's about it. And you don't have to worry about updates, and they're never going to get you into that kind of cycle. And there are other reasons that you might want a not smart TV too. Maybe you're the sort of person who just doesn't believe that this kind of thing is secure. Or maybe you're just the sort of person who doesn't really stream. I know a lot of people who are out there who do not stream. That's not a problem. And you don't want to deal with apps and filling out your account. You just want to turn on the TV and it works. Well, for $200, you can get a TV that you turn on and it works, period. And heck, there's something to be said about that, I got to say. You don't have to connect it to Wi-Fi. You don't have to do anything. You just you hook it up and bada bing, boom, works. And looking at the quality of these TVs, yes, they are going to vary. I've got a lot of cheap TVs, or I've gone through a lot of cheap TVs, and yeah, the quality is going to be weird in some areas. Some of them are big 720p TVs, which, yeah, that does make a difference if you're going to be pretty close to them. Doesn't make a difference at all if you're 10 feet away, I got to tell you. Some of them don't really have a true white, and some of them don't look very good because you can't balance the amount of saturation that you want, and get really good greens without getting really blown out reds. And okay, so big deal for a bedroom, guest room, or if you're setting up an Airbnb. Who cares? And that's another whole thing I should point out too. If you're putting a TV somewhere that it might get stolen, putting a cheap TV in there is going to serve two purposes. First of all, if it's a cheap enough TV, people aren't going to want to steal it. And if people do steal it, oh well, quick homeowner's insurance claim or what have you, and you go out and buy another one the same day. It's just not a big deal. There's a lot to be said. And I have a fondness in a lot of ways for these cheap electronics. Every year when I would go to the Consumer Electronics Show, it's been a couple of years, I would seek out these manufacturers of inexpensive things, and you'd find stuff that was really good value for the money, because you'd find a Blu-ray player for $40. Now, maybe it's not going to last forever, but on the other hand, maybe you just want to use it to play a couple of Blu-ray discs and that's it. Maybe you just want a landline phone that is just going to sit there and be used occasionally and not really very often, that you can unplug when you're tired of getting the telemarketers. All sorts of reasons to have these less expensive electronics. Smartwatches, by the way, you can buy 10 cheap smartwatches for the price of one Apple Watch, and chances are for what you do with them, they're going to be just as good. And you know what? You drop one or scratch it against a door and who cares? Just as simple as that. But when you do want the quality stuff, when you really want quality equipment, pro quality stuff, industrial quality stuff, I'm going to ask you to go to solidsignal.com. You see what I did right there? I turned that into an advertisement. I turned that into something that helps me pay the bills. And I like that because honestly, I really appreciate the folks at Solid Signal who let me say anything that I want in these podcasts, and it just kind of comes out okay. So shop at solidsignal.com, and if you have any questions, they're the kind of folks who actually do answer the phone, and the phone number there is 888-233-7563. That's 888-233-7563. That's about it for me for the Solid Signal podcast this week. Go out and treat yourself to some sort of cheap television or other consumer electronics device. It's worth it. I'll see you again next week. Please like, subscribe, and comment anywhere you get this podcast. Makes me look good to my bosses. Have a great week. See you soon.